slightly nervous today because today I'm going to be interviewing and meeting actually for the first time in almost 20 years my college lecturer. It had a huge involvement in my life and my development as a plumber, as an adult and as a person. And I reached out to him last week to try and convince people to think about sharing their skills. Plumbers, carpenters, anyone in the trades, even outside of the trades, if you've got a skill that can be taught to a young person or someone on a night course or full time, what's that like going into that? What's it like becoming a teacher? What's it like to start teaching people your skill, its rewards, its challenges, and how you should do it? I think he's going to be there in about an hour's time, so let's get changed. Enjoy this video, guys. It's going to be a real good one for me. I'm looking forward to seeing him again. Hi everyone, welcome back to Plumber Parts. This is going to be either a really good video or a really embarrassing one, for me especially. I'm joined today by my former tutor, my further education tutor, Steve Gafer. Steve, how are you?
I'm very well, James. Nice to see you after all this time.
Yeah, you've not aged at all.
Oh, thank you.
You didn't say that about me when you came in.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I think you said something like I'd had a hard paper round. Something like that. So, Steve, what did you do before you became a further education teacher? What was your job, and how did you get into further education teaching?
Initially, teaching was when I left school and left college. I'd done my apprenticeship at college. I was working on site.
What were you doing? What did you do your apprenticeship in?
I'd done heating and ventilating and welding.
Okay.
At college.
Yeah.
And I'd done that for about 5 years as an apprenticeship, working for a company. There was a position come up in Cambridge for a technician at one of the colleges, and I'd been working on site for 5 years, but I didn't really realise at the time what skills I was picking up. And all of a sudden I've got this toolbox full of skills that I've learned, and I was quite surprised, how many skills were in there really, till I went to the college and I was a technician. And I got the opportunity to do some evening classes.
So when you're at college as a technician, was that just helping out the tutors?
Yeah, helping out the tutors, preparing classes for students, making sure all the equipment was there, a little bit of helping the students when they got stuck. So I took that on and I worked in the evenings alongside the job. So
from doing that, you were doing night classes. What happened after that? Because when I was an apprentice and you were teaching me, that was your full-time job, wasn't it?
It was. So I was doing the technician role for about 4 years before I actually went into teaching. I was doing the part-time teaching alongside that, but then an opportunity came up today at full-time teaching role, and I was asked to apply for it. I felt quite excited about that, to be quite honest, because I had the vocational skills and I had honed some of those teaching skills.
The communication skills.
The communication skills, and I knew what to expect to a certain extent. The college supported me through teacher training, sent me to teacher training college, and the rest is history really. 40 years later, I was still at the same college teaching.
Some of that time teaching me.
Some of that time teaching you, and I got through it all. I got through it all, James.
Okay, Steve, so before we continue, Emily's got some, my wife here. I was seeing Emily when we were at college.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah. So there you go, you remember me looking like that?
I do.
Look at that.
I remember the hair being tied back.
Well, look at this. How about that? There you are. 20 odd years ago. So there's,
oh my goodness.
There's my mate Phil.
That's amazing.
That's
I didn't know there was photos of me that far back, James.
This shows before the digital age.
Well, yes.
Getting your true print and hoping it came out. Do you remember?
Well, we have to keep those for evidence that you've actually completed the work.
Yeah, here you go.
That's it. That's the James Grant I remember very well. Always smiling though, James.
I was a good lad.
You were that
he said earlier on that I was a good lad, but he said it off camera.
You see, you're showing me these photos, but these are all transferable skills that you're picking up on the way, aren't they? You're picking up these skills all the time, and somebody on site like yourself are picking up these skills, and these are skills that we want to bring into FE.
Yeah, and what we need now is for more people to come from my side of the trade. People who are out on the tools who've, like you said, they've learnt these skills. Maybe they're thinking about doing it, but they never thought it could happen, coming into further education. Maybe they think it takes too long. too much of their time, maybe they're not going to get paid enough. But what we're going to hopefully do today with you is dispel some of those myths and some of those worries, allay some of those concerns. And even if we can, by this video, convince one person to going into further education, then I think it's hopefully been worth it.
And I think people have the anxiety of being, a lecturer, a teacher, but they've got those skills. They've got the skills that we need in FE, and the college will support them in the other side of teaching those skills on site. So while you're teaching, you're learning to be a teacher as well, which you need to do. You need both parts of that, but the college will support you in those.
When you were there, did you have someone turn up who'd worked on the tools for ages and just turn up and said, I want to be a teacher?
It's quite a physical job, heating and ventilating, plumbing. People get in their 40s, perhaps their knees are... and you
I'm feeling that now.
Yeah, and but what a great way to come into FE, really, because you've got those skills and have a well-equipped workshop. Most of the workshops in the colleges, are really well-equipped. So you can come into that environment without so many stresses and strains. So that's one way. I'm not saying that's all way, but that is a factor of coming into FE at a later date, and all the skills that you've honed and picked up on the way, as soon as you start giving them to the students and see them take that on board, is amazing. I mean, it's...
I suppose another thing about it as well, the actual demographic of the students you're teaching, they're not GCSE age where they're just going through the motions of effectively doing that.
No.
They're having to be at school when they do their GCSEs.
No. Yeah.
These people have chosen to come and do an apprenticeship and learn with you.
Yeah.
So they're probably a bit more receptive, aren't they, do you think?
Well, they are, but you've got to remember, it's not just apprentices, it's full-time students as well, post-16. And I find if they've gone through an educational system, when you've got them in a classroom teaching a new trade, they're all on the same level. And perhaps the lower achievers that have come in, all of a sudden see they've got these practical skills and they fly. Perhaps they hadn't realised they've got those.
Yeah.
And again, it's so fulfilling to see that
Yeah,
and see
teasing
them,
out that hidden potential.
absolutely, and get them so they're very employable, because they're not employable, very employable when they come to us, because they've got no transferable skills.
Yeah.
After 6 months, they can hang a radiator, they can hang a little pipe straight, and all of a sudden,
soldering
and do a bit of soldering. All of a sudden, they've got transferable skills that the employer can use. You can see them, the confidence grow in them, and they fly.
So I'm certainly getting a feeling one of the biggest things the thing you love the most about teaching, is the fulfilment of seeing young people or anyone just trying to get a trade or learn these skills, actually seeing it happen and seeing them flourish.
Absolutely. I mean, that's your job satisfaction, isn't it? The confidence, see the confidence grows, amazing. Yeah, that's my job satisfaction.
I suppose because you've done it for 40 years, you've seen some of those students at the start of that time come back with their apprentices, or you must have seen it go full circle a few times now.
I think I said to you just a little while ago, I've just had a bathroom put in my house. One of my ex-students was around doing it. They were employed by the contractor to come down. And I see vans all around, the local area.
Yeah.
And they're all doing, a lot of students are doing really well, yeah.
So what about you? Have you got any memorable moments?
Some of my memorable moments are, again, I keep going back to this, but seeing the students achieve and to see the students getting awards, nearly, and yourself, we were a good example here of getting awards at college and national awards. Even in the past week, the ex-student who's took on my role at college, one of his students got a national award this week.
Oh, brilliant!
So,
Yeah,
it goes full circle.
Well, you had a national. You've won an award for teaching, haven't you?
I did, yes, in 2009, a BBC award for excellence in teaching, which I was very proud of.
For surviving the 2002, 2005 or whatever intake.
That was a separate award.
Yeah, one that they internally had by the teachers. So for someone who's thinking about going into teaching, what could you say to them? Why should they do it? And do you understand what they may feel as well? The worries they have?
I do. I'll go back to when I first started to teach. I had anxieties. Can I do this? When I left school, the thought of being a lecturer or a teacher was never on the horizon. I was on site and I was working on site, long hours, all weathers. Once you've got your toolbox full of your vocational skills, your transferable skills, and you go into a classroom and you start putting those across to students and see them, the light come on, I can do this, you're halfway there. What you haven't got is the teaching qualifications, the teaching know-how, if you like.
What does that look like then? So teaching know-how.
You need teaching skills because you've got to adapt how you put the information across to these learners so they learn. So you need the skills in your toolbox, the other half of your toolbox, your teaching skills.
Yeah, to learn that person
To learn
learns that way and that person learns in that way.
Absolutely, and you know, pastoral skills and how to develop lessons, lesson plans and things like that. Once you've honed those skills and you've got them both, you will fly. Initially, you could do it part-time and carry on with your job as you're doing and teaching the evening as I did. But if you went into teaching, you've got the advantage that you can progress through the trade, through the profession and go up the ladder. You can get promotion through it.
Yeah.
So, head of department, sector leaders, things like that. So, there is room for advancement within the sector as well.
Okay, so a light-hearted test. I've got down here on my notes for you to... Have you got any tests that you'd like to test me on?
We'll take you back to your pipe welding days.
Oh, God. Yeah, go on.
Preparation for your pipe.
Okay.
How you prepped your pipe. So we'll
Okay.
go back to a bit of 4-inch pipe, shall we?
Yes, yeah, okay, yeah.
And you're welding a piece of 4-inch pipe for a pipeline on here.
Yeah,
Or a boiler house, shall
Can we
we?
just remember what you used to do as well? You never used to let us weld 4-inch pipe on the bench.
No, I
You
didn't,
used to
no.
put them up high,
Yeah.
so we'd have to get used to welding with
How-
stuff falling on your head.
How often do you see a piece of 4-inch pipe in a plant house that you...
Yeah, never
So
happens.
I did throw you in at the deep end, but
You did.
hopefully that you can now weld a piece of pipe where it should be.
Okay, so we'd cut the pipe,
Yes.
we'd grind off a flat on the if you had to,
Yes.
and then a sort of 45-degree chamfer all round the pipe.
Right, the edge, yes.
Yeah.
Perhaps a little bit less than 45.
Maybe
but
30.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then butt them together,
Yes.
and then cellulose root weld.
Before we butted them together, we had a little bit of a gap, didn't we, between called a root gap. Do you remember the root gap?
Oh, yeah, I do. Yeah, no, I do now. Yeah, I do remember the root gap. What was it, about 1 or 2 mil?
It was.
Oh, I thought so.
It was.
About the width of your rod, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this used to usually happen on Friday afternoon, about 2 in the afternoon. We'd do all these welds, wouldn't we? And then you'd cut a sliver out of
That's right.
the bit, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And then you'd bend it up
Yeah.
and hit it. And
Against the root.
yeah, and then if it snapped, we'd have to do it again and stay late. I used to hate that bit. So is there any further points you want to make then about
Well-
what we've spoken about today?
Yeah, I think I'd like to just consolidate what teaching FE is about. It's very rewarding. It can be challenging at times. I've certainly enjoyed it over the years, and I certainly wouldn't have changed my career path.
I almost get the feeling, rather than you, I don't think you'd quite recommend, the word to recommend someone to become a teacher, I don't think it's quite what you're, I almost feel like you really want people to do it.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I recommend you do this. It's more like, please do this,
Yes.
because I've enjoyed it so much.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with that comment. That's a very pertinent comment, James, because without coming in, you're not going to experience the fulfilment you get of seeing students flourish, and your input has done that. There's no doubt, because they come perhaps with little confidence, not knowing quite which career path to take. Once they've got 1 or 2 of those skills and you see them bend a piece of pipe or do a bit of soldering for the first time, and that light comes on, and perhaps they haven't flourished at school too much, but when they come in and you've got those transferable skills, and you're preparing them for work and they become employable, learning can be fun. Let's make it fun,
Yeah.
and let's make it enjoyable, and put those transferable skills. And somebody who's got all the tools in the toolbox can do that from site and come in.
And it doesn't have to be this sudden shock life change of I used to work on the tools and now I'm a teacher.
No, no.
It can be this sort of gradual thing.
Absolutely.
Where it's up to you if you want to make it more or less one or the other.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. And as I say, the college will support you in the other side that you need of your teaching qualifications. So, good all-round package, and certainly something that I wouldn't have changed over the years.
So, Steve, thank you ever so much for coming in today.
You're very welcome.
It's lovely to see you again, mate.
Been nice to catch up with you, and
Thanks ever so much for watching all the way to the end, and a massive thank you to my old tutor and mentor, Steve Gafer. Search Teach in Further Education and visit the campaign website where you can find out more about how you can share your skills without changing your career. See you in the next video, guys. Hold tight. It's not the Silver Fox. I'm with Stevie Gafer.
Steve Gafer, blimey.
Say hello to Steve.
Hi, Steve.
how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Living the dream, mate.
Yeah.
Living the dream.
Nice to hear you too.